blogger. I write DaveBurda.ca. I'm good friends with Premier Stelmach. Something happened last year between us. Today I'm going to be doing a presentation on the dramatically titled The Fall of the Media Empires and the Rise of Citizen Journalism. Now, there's some citizen journalism fans. Once we get this PowerPoint slide up, I'll be able to, I guess, flesh out some ideas a little better. But generally what I'm going to cover, and first of all, before I start, I'm not an expert in media. I have no formal education in journalism or Web 2.0 or communications. Everything I've learned through experience, whether that be through jobs or whether that be writing a blog or reading about it. So I don't have a degree in blogging.
Or registering domain names.
Or registering domain names. No, that's foolproof. It's $14. So I don't think our PowerPoint presentation is going to work. So I can.
If you want to wing it.
Yeah, I'm just going to wing it. To tell you the truth, I was originally going to do a presentation on social media, but I saw that Mac and Walter had done one this morning.
Hey, do you have USB key?
Do you want to try their computer?
We do have USB key.
Yeah, that might be easier to get us to try it.
Let me try that next.
Yeah, sure.
The PC though.
Oh!
This is the first.
I don't know.
It's in PowerPoint, we're all good.
Alright. Cournoyer-Media would have gotten this right.
I don't know about that.
No. Mainstream media wouldn't even try.
What's that website? InstantRimshot.com?
Yeah, I love InstantRimshot.com. I think there's instant trombone too. It goes wah wah wah.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
I know.
But they couldn't figure something out. They had to. It's all locked up. You're just hiring a tech support.
Yeah, there are ways around that.
Yeah.
And we just could have had a long
Okay.
meeting.
So I guess as we wait for them to get the PowerPoint figured out on the. Thank you very much for the PC. Clearly inferior. Yeah.
Apparently.
Except for PowerPoint might work on it.
Might.
It's working already.
Vista, anyone? Yay. Basically, my presentation is going to, what's it called? My presentation is called
IDEAFest?
Yeah, IDEAFest.
Hooray!
Okay, this should work. As you can see, the overly dramatic title that's meant to grab your attention. I don't actually believe that media is actually disappearing. I just think it's an evolution, and that you see the fall of a lot of these giant media companies is simply an evolution of how media is delivered in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here. Thanks. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go. I'm going to power through this because we're already 7 minutes in. So, fall of media and empires and the rise of citizen journalism. In this presentation, I'm going to quickly cover these topics. So, talk about centralized media ownership, why the media is collapsing. I know that's a common question that I get when I'm talking to people is that you hear about Can West laying off people, you hear about CTV laying off, and the Golden Mail laying off reporters and staff. But why exactly has that happened? And I put together just a couple points as to why that's happened. First of all, private media in Canada are primarily owned by a small number of companies, and we're talking the mainstream newspapers. So we're talking the big newspapers and the big television companies or the television channels. So you have these companies which are basically the bigger companies. So you can see there's a real centralization in Canada, especially because we have a smaller population. It seems like it's more intense. Almost all of Canadian television stations are owned by national media conglomerates. So you have CTV affiliates in pretty much every major city. Global is another big one. And one that I'm going to focus on because it's an easier one to explain in the amount of time I have. Even though I'm not going to be able to totally explain what's going on, is CanWest. Now you can see CanWest owns pretty much all the major daily newspapers, not all the major daily newspapers, but a good chunk of the major daily newspapers in Canada. When you look at the cities, I mean, the Times Columnist, the Star Phoenix, the Calgary Herald, and the Journal, so it's almost as if they have kind of like a pseudo-monopoly, a half-monopoly on the newspaper industry in Canada. And I'm going to talk about why the collapse. So first of all, you've probably read this stuff, about CanWest's $3.9 billion debt load that they've been given by their creditors until March 11th to come up with a plan before they can actually get any more money. I believe their stocks fell, I think it's 34 cents right now, CanWest's stocks. Pardon me? 28. Oh, okay. Well, it's worse since I last read it last week. Thanks. CTV has told the CRTC that it expects to lose $100 million in 2009, and Torstar, which owns the Toronto Star and a couple of other papers, has posted net losses and increasingly is seeing its debt load grow. So why is this happening? I mean, these are just three reasons that I've come up with. I know it's a complicated issue, but first of all, it's growth for growth's sake. And I think especially using the CanWest example, is that when there was the takeover, I believe it was Southern, Hollinger came and bought out Southern, and then it was transferred into, became CanWest Global. I think one of the big issues was it grew too fast. So it was, times were good, and they basically ended up buying up a lot of newspapers and grew their business really fast, rather than looking at it sustainably. And that leads into the second point, is now that the economic downturn, the dependence on advertising revenues is being hurt because they grew too fast when ad revenues were higher, and because a lot of businesses are losing money and they're not taking out as much advertising anymore. And also, the third point, which I think is really important and relates to blogs and information online, is people are getting used to free information. A lot of newspapers can't depend on subscription revenues anymore. So subscription and advertising revenues, which were two of the bigger two of the bigger revenue streams in the model that the big companies like CanWest were using, you can't really depend on it anymore. And whether people expecting to have free information online is a good thing or not, it's becoming a reality, and people expect to be able to go online and search Google. I was talking with a friend this morning, and he was saying that my presentation should have been how Google killed the mainstream media, or the traditional media. And I think that's with the with people changing how they search for information. I think it's really undercutting a lot of these big newspapers. If you've ever, well, I'm sure all of you are on Twitter. I've seen people were twittering this. If you go to Canadian media layoffs on Twitter, it basically shows like daily updates of the media layoffs that are going on. And these are the most five recent posts. I just copied and pasted them this morning. So you can see it's a pretty volatile situation right now. I mean, a lot of these big companies are just hemorrhaging. So, but what does that mean? I mean, is it an evolution, or is it the extinction of mainstream media? And I really think, I mean, a lot of people have written about how it's the extinction of mainstream media, like the old media, the traditional media. I don't believe it's an extinction. I think it's an evolution of what's going on. I think, whether a lot of these companies go under, but I don't think that's extinction. I think there'll be new ideas that will come around. And I think with the internet rewards innovation. And the people who are able to find the new business model and become big and find the new best thing are going to be able to, be the, I don't want to say the Aspers of the future, but another, successful media moguls of the future. So I focused on what I do is political blogging. So political blogging in the mainstream media. I think there's a real love and hate relationship between bloggers and the mainstream media. I know myself. Sometimes when I write, I'll write a story on politics in Alberta. This happened frequently during the last provincial election campaign. But I would write a post on something, and then the next day or later that week, an article with the exact same topic would show up in the Calgary Herald or the Edmonton Journal. And I mean, those reporters went out and did their own research and got their own quotes. But I mean, for me, I knew they were reading my blog, and it was pretty coincidental that it happened at the same time. and we might have been on the same wavelengths, but it is a love-hate relationship in that way, because bloggers who do write don't always get the type of credit that maybe they deserve, and maybe we don't deserve the credit. Blogs are nimble and act as online instant magazines that can take time to do and publish in-depth research and commentary on some issues. And I think this is a really interesting one when you look at the amount of layoffs that are happening in some of the bigger newspapers. It's going to, to me, it seems obvious that it's likely going to impact a lot of the local coverage, a lot of the political coverage happening. So, for example, Edmonton City Hall may not be a priority anymore, or communities in Edmonton may not be a priority anymore. So I think that's the big area where local bloggers, or people who are interested, or citizen journalists, or laid-off reporters, even for that matter, have the potential to start their own thing. If they can come up with a business model, find investors, they can start a blog. EdmontonPolitics.com could be an example of a bunch of local people who would get together in the future and write about Edmonton politics, especially coming up to the next provincial or municipal election. So I've already covered two of these topics. So the evolution, filling the gaps made by cutbacks, and citizens taking ownership over information. The citizens taking ownership over information, I think that's a really interesting one because of, actually no, I'm going to get into that one a little later. Canada's, talking about the internet, the blogosphere, Canada has one of the highest internet user rates in the world at 84% as of March 2008. I believe that was the International Telecommunications Union. That was their numbers. If you want to find political blogs, there's a number of blog aggregators that act as hubs. So if you want to look for conservative blogs, you can go to bloggingtories.com, and there you'll find about 230 conservative party-oriented blogs. Progressive bloggers, which is Liberal, NDP, Green, and whatever else you want to throw in there. Is under there, and then you see there's other blogs, other blogging aggregators, as well as Alberta blogs, so if you want to find some good Alberta blogs. Blogs in the mainstream media. This is an interesting, as you can see, there's an interesting list of people and bloggers right there. And I'm going to go through some of the examples of how blogs have affected how you can say citizen journalists have made their way into the mainstream media, whether it was positive or negative. Garth Turner. For those of you who know, Garth Turner, who was a progressive conservative, turned independent, turned liberal MP, blogged during a caucus meeting in the Conservative caucus. Whether he was picking fights or not, I'm not sure what was going on. But his ejection from the Conservative caucus a couple of years ago made news because he was very vocal on his own blog. Kay McMillan from SmallDeadAnimals.com. During the 2008 Saskatchewan election, there was an endorsement. Kay McMillan, a blogger in Saskatchewan, had endorsed the Saskatchewan Party and Brad Wall, and the endorsement was found on the Saskatchewan Party website. You could later see that Brad Wall had to distance himself after she made some not so flattering comments, I believe, about people who living in inner city Saskatoon. You can search for the article yourself. Ezra Levant is an interesting one. For those of you who've been following Ezra Levant's blog and the Shotgun blog, Ezra Levant's been using his blog to really do some interesting stuff with his fight with the Alberta Human Rights Commission. I don't know how many of you have seen the YouTube video that was posted online with Ezra Levant and his interview with some poor woman who works for the Alberta Human Rights Commission. And I felt kind of sorry for her because it was very obvious that Levant was in that interview and he had the video recorded because he wanted to make a point. And here you have this bureaucrat who's doing her job, and he has his script and he's pontificating about how it's he's being this is the chamber and this is they're taking him on, and anyway, it's funny because you could see her rolling her eyes. But I think it was really effective. It was really effective use of blogs and getting his message out. I mean, this is an example of a very political person, so I don't think you'd call him a regular citizen. Michael Geist is another interesting one with blogs. For those of you familiar with the copyright reform battles that were going on in Ottawa a couple years ago, or last year. Michael Geist, who's a professor at the University of Ottawa, used his popular blog. I'm a big Michael Geist fanboy, by the way. When he was here in Edmonton, I went and got like my picture taken with him, and it was really cool. But his blog and the use of a lot of internet tools, so Facebook, Twitter, they were able to rally Canadians, people who are interested in normally a very boring and dry issue like copyright reform, to actually, show up at town halls for their MP. I believe it was Jim Prentice. They had like 40 people show up at one of Jim Prentice's town hall meetings in Calgary to talk about copyright reform. I mean, geez. But it's been a really effective way of explaining why copyright reform is an important issue. And I would encourage you to check out his blog. And also the Fair Copyright for Canada website. Another interesting one, dsmogblog.com, and definitely check it out. It's a British Columbia, so Vancouver-based blog with run by a couple communications professionals, and they, as you can read, investigate the academic and industry backgrounds involved, basically trying to debunk the spin campaigns that a lot of the energy industry, so the oil industry or the coal industry in the United States use to basically sell their poison. And this is an interesting one. PR giant launches AstroTurf Group, and it's actually, this is my personal connection because I wrote about this on my blog, and DSmog blog covered it afterwards. For those of you who remember the royalty debate that happened here in Alberta right before the last election, there was a citizens group who set up a website called GetItRightAlberta.ca, but it turned out that these anonymous citizens also hired Hill and Knowlton, which is like basically, I think Hill and Knowlton was hired to handle like the public relations campaign for the United States government during the first Gulf War. So I'm not sure how many the average citizens can afford to hire Hill and Knowlton as
That's the one when the Iraqis were dumping the babies out of the incubators.
I think that's the one.
Those guys
Yeah,
came up with that one.
I think that's the one.
Yeah.
So I don't know too many private citizens who have the pockets to actually fund this or grassroots organization. I don't believe they ever disclosed who was running it, but the thing is, it was basically the website said or tried to pose as a citizen website, but then a quick search, for example, in the WHOIS Internet Registry showed that it was actually so-and-so from Hill and Knowlton who had registered it, and it exposed it pretty quickly. So that's another example of how blogs have kind of taken a role in the mainstream. And then there was this. I know Alex had this earlier in his presentation. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this. There you go. That says it all. So after I've said, talked about blogs and how important, how much of an influence some blogs are having in the mainstream, and as potential to fill the gaps left by a number of collapsing mainstream media companies. Paul Booten, who's a tech writer, wrote this on Wired Online. I thought this was really interesting because I think it touches on a lot of sentiment that a lot of people aren't feeling like the blogosphere is what it used to be. I mean, you have a lot of big blogs like Huffington Post, Daily Kos, even like some of the mainstream media blogs like the National Post blog, Ken West's blogs, becoming bigger and attracting a bigger audience. So it really isn't as easy for Joe from Okotoks to start a blog and then become the #1 blog hit for Joe. I mean, those days, whether they were 2004 or 2003, are a little bit past us right now, as more of the mainstream and a lot of the bigger group blogs and e-magazines move into the blogosphere. But I think the one thing that I take as hope is how organic the internet is. And I think, as I said earlier, the internet rewards innovation. And if you write a good blog, if you're smart and if you're able to get it out there, I think people will read it if people are looking for that kind of information. So I really think that there is still a lot of room, and I think though we may be at a point where it may not be as easy for a random Joe blogger to start a new blog and become big. I think there's potential for us to be as a lot of these big companies collapse, there's potential for a blog revival. So the golden age of blogs, I don't think has passed. I think it's evolved. I think that's the thing we really have to recognize. And kind of the point of my presentation is that a lot of the collapse you're hearing in the media isn't the end of the media, an extinction of media, but an evolution. So what comes after that? I don't know what comes after that. I don't know what the next big thing is. But I think whoever discovers it and is able to put it into practice first is going to lead the charge, basically be ahead of the curve for the next best thing. So yeah, so that's my presentation. I guess thank you very much for coming out. You can read my blog. I'm on Twitter. I'm at Dave Cournoyer, and you can email me so anytime. Were there any questions or discussion, or want to fire at me? Questions? Jerry.
All right. This is kind of hypothetical. Would you be happier if there was no mainstream media? Would you like to see it disappear?
Would I like to see the mainstream media disappear?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I think, well, the mainstream media is where most people get their information. So I think if it disappeared overnight, I don't know if there's a lot of people who would know where to access the information.
So that's where you get a lot of your information already when you're doing your research?
I get a lot, yeah, I do get a lot of information. I think a lot of blogs take their cues from the mainstream media. I think mostly blogs, I mean, with the exception of with some of the blogs I showed today, I think most blogs, and maybe I didn't touch on this earlier, but most blogs are reactive rather than, finding scoops. Like most of the stuff I write about is commentary. I don't consider myself a citizen journalist. I consider myself more of a citizen columnist. Like I'm very, when I write, I'm biased, and you have to take that into consideration. That I'm, unless it's just factual information. If I'm writing an opinion piece, it's very much an opinion piece. And
And I think it's good to define yourself that way too, because I think that a lot of bloggers tend to think of themselves as in place for that. But I don't know. I think that it's overstating the case that citizen journalism is going to go and replace mainstream media. The fundamental thing is that somebody's got to make some money somewhere along the way. I mean, you can talk about all these unemployed journalists all you want going out and covering city council because no other bloggers are going to want to do that. But at the same time, people have to make money to be able to do that. I mean, those meetings, and I've sat in on them, take 3-4 hours, and you might get one little gem of information out of it, and then you can take a story, and do a story based on that. I mean, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of effort to be able to produce quality journalism. And I'm not saying the bloggers can't do that, but the thing is that how many people are going to go out there and volunteer their time to be able to cover all the things that need to be covered? Because, I mean, like Mac, you mentioned at our social and meetup, you covered 2 different topics between you and Sharon. Well, there's a lot of stuff going on.
My point was multiply S by 50.
What's that?
My point was multiply S by 50. And instead of having guys go to a council meeting and feel like they have to sit there for 2 hours because they're getting paid to, you get guys who go to a council meeting, or girls, because they're passionate about the topic and they care about it. And they're going to go and they're going to find the news and they're going to bring it out, right? You still
I think it's kind of utopian to think that that's going to happen, that you're going to magically get a whole bunch of, dozens of bloggers across Edmonton that are going to go and do this.
And it's not just putting the time in meetings. It's really, you could watch, it's on Shaw TV, it's streaming on the internet. You could watch it while doing your work, but it's...
Some of it happens there, but at the same time, I know that a lot of it happens in committee meetings as well.
No, I was saying a lot of it is just having these relationships with various people in the public sphere, knowing...
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I think there's another...
Yeah, take it to the bar at 5:30 tonight and play the
So great discussion. Thanks for everybody. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.